I have been someone who loved my own company. I am Kimberly, and I am 30 years old teaching physics at the college_family, marriage. All that jazz, not really on my map. Inheritance from my granddad, this quaint little spot is mine all the way. It is my piece in the hustle and bustle. So there I was, hitting the pavement in the park for my morning run, when this scene unfolds right in front of me. A guy not watching where he's going takes a spectacular dive, and his phone goes flying. The thing hits the ground and bam, it's a goner, shattered screen, bits everywhere, the whole 9 yards. He's cussing up a storm, face all twisted in frustration. Clearly, the phone's the least of his worries. Looks like he's about to tear his hair out. Great, just great, this is all I needed today, he groans, staring at the remains of his phone like it personally offended him. I slowed down, kind of hovering, not sure why. Maybe it's the look of utter defeat on his face. You need to borrow a phone? I ask, keeping it casual. He looks up, kind of surprised that someone is talking to him. Yeah, that'd be great, actually. Need to call my folks, tell them I botched up something important. I unhook my phone from my armband and hand it over. Don't sweat it, just make it quick. Yeah, sure. Thanks a ton, he says, and he's on the phone in a heartbeat, pacing a small circle as he talks. His voice is all polite now, a total switch from the cursing fit seconds ago. Listen, I've had a bit of a mishap. He's glancing at me. A silent plea for a bit more time. I nod, letting him know it's all right. Finishing up, he hands back my phone with a sheepish look. Thanks, I owe you one. I'm Jack, by the way. Kimberly, and forget about it. Just try not to smash it next time, yeah. I say, half joking. He chuckles, running a hand through his hair. Deal. I'll make it up to you. Coffee sometime. I raise an eyebrow. Are you planning on throwing the coffee on the ground too? Elas, a genuine hearty sound. Promise I'm less clumsy with coffee cups. What do you say? I consider it for a moment. Not usually my thing, chatting up strangers, but something about this feels different. All right, Jack, coffee. But if you're late, I'm leaving, I say with a smirk. That coffee with Jack, it turned out to be the first of many. Something about him made me toss my stranger danger manual out the window. He was easy to talk to, with a laugh that made you want to join in, even if the joke was lame. We found this little hole-in-the-wall cafe, the kind where the coffee's strong enough to put hair on your chest, and the owner knows everyone by name. We became regulars, our conversations stretching from physics to philosophy to the downright ridiculous. So you're telling me if you could, you'd teach physics to cats. Jack asked me one day, a mischievous twinkle in his eye. I took a sip of my coffee, playing along. Absolutely. Imagine the breakthroughs. Schrodinger's cat would have a whole new meaning. He laughed, shaking his head. You're nuts, you know that, right? Take one to know one, I shot back, smiling. Things with Jack just clicked. It wasn't long before our coffee dates turned into dinner dates, movie nights, and lazy Sundays spent doing nothing together. It was easy, comfortable, and frighteningly quick. One evening, as we were closing down the cafe, with our lingering goodbyes, Jack turned serious. Something I'd come to learn meant he had something important on his mind. Kimberly, he started, hesitating a bit. We're great together, aren't we? I nodded, curious about where this was leading. Well, I was wondering, what do you think about making this a forever thing? My heart skipped. You mean like marriage? Yeah, marriage, he confirmed, his voice firm, but his eyes searching mine for any sign of hesitation. I paused, not because I doubted my feelings, but because the gravity of the decision weighed on me. Yet, looking into his hopeful eyes, I found my answer. Yes, Jack. Let's do it. Let's get married. The whirlwind that was our engagement sped by, and before I knew it, wedding bells were practically ringing in my ears. But there was this one little hiccup before we could say our I does. Jack's folks wanted to meet me. No biggie, right? Wrong. The meet and greet was at their place, which was fancy enough to make you think twice about where you sat. They were polite, but had this way of looking at you, like they were trying to read the fine print on your soul. So Kimberly, his dad starts, smooth like he's practiced this speech a few times. Jack tells us you're a teacher. Physics, was it? Yeah, that's right. I reply, keeping my tone friendly but guarded. And you live in that lovely little house by the park. Quite the inheritance. His mom chimes in, her eyes sharp, trying to pin me down. I just nod, sensing where this is heading, but not wanting to jump the gun. It's just that our Jack is quite the successful businessman, you know. We're just a tad concerned, no offense, dear, that some might be more interested in his financial stability. His dad says, dancing around the real accusation. I couldn't help but laugh, the absurdity of it all bubbling up. Trust me, I've got my own thanks. Not here for a free ride. Their faces tighten, not expecting my blunt honesty. Or maybe they did, and it was all part of the test. Well, in that case, his mom says, pulling out this document from nowhere, we'd feel more at ease if you two considered a prenuptial agreement. Sure, I shrugged, taking the paper. Makes sense to me. I like knowing where I stand. Plus, my house isn't up for grabs. Their surprise was almost worth the awkward tension. I guess they weren't used to straightforward answers. Jack seemed relieved, squeezing my hand under the table like he was saying thanks for not bolting. So we signed their precious prenup, sealing the deal that what's mine is mine, and what's his is his. Fair's fair, but the taste it left in my mouth was sour, made me wonder what kind of family I was marrying into. Living with Jack in my granddad's house started off as a dream. We'd laugh over burnt toast, dance in the living room to no music, and make plans for every inch of the garden. But like a storm rolling in slowly, things got cloudy, then downright stormy. And wouldn't you know it, the storm had a name, Jack's parents. These two could give lessons in arrogance. From day one, it was like I signed up for a third and fourth roommate who had a key, but never heard of rent. They'd swan into our place like it was a diner, feet up, waiting for the special of the day. And when they hinted they wanted to go on this fancy cruise, but their wallets were too thin, they looked at me like I was the bank. No, I told them, you think I declared war. They threw a fit, calling me stingy, saying I hoarded my cash like some dragon sitting on gold. Word gets around, and soon Jack's asking why I'm not more generous with his folks. Generous, Jack? They practically live off us as it is. I snapped back one night after his parents had left, our sofa and our fridge emptier than promises. Their family, Kim, we're supposed to help out, he argued, missing the point by a mile. Helping is one thing, being taken for a ride's another. Your folks think my money's there to spend. That's not happening, I said. Jack went all quiet then, the kind of silence that's louder than shouting. His parents did the same but in their way, by suddenly vanishing. No drop by, no calls, nothing. They were offended because I wouldn't fund their holiday spree, called me greedy behind my back, said I was living too tight. All because I wouldn't open up my granddad's safe to splurge on them. Ah, the safe, that hulking piece of metal, was more than a place to stash away a few valuable bits and bobs. It was a slice of history, a connection to my granddad. But to them, just a vault they hadn't cracked. The months without Jack's folks were like the quiet before the storm. It was a Tuesday, the kind of day you don't expect anything out of the ordinary. I was late coming home from work, bogged down with papers and the remnants of a headache that wouldn't quit. Walking in, I found Jack's parents parked on our sofa, remote in hand, flipping through channels like they owned the place. Evening, I managed, trying to keep the edge out of my voice. "Oh, there she is. We were wondering if you'd join us tonight," his mom said without looking away from the TV. I glanced at Jack, hoping for some backup, but he was engrossed in something on his laptop. Sighing, I headed to the kitchen, only to find they'd helped themselves to leftovers I was planning to make into dinner. That was it. I was done playing nice. "Okay, listen up," I said, striding back into the living room. "This is not a hotel, and I am not the maid." Jack looked up, startled, while his parents finally paused their channel surfing. "What's gotten into you?" his dad asked, frowning. "I'm tired," I shot back, tired of coming home to find you two camped out here, eating my food, and treating this place like it's yours. It's not. The room went silent. You could have heard a pin drop, or in this case, the tick of the clock marking the moment everything changed. You could have heard a pin drop, or in this case, the tick of the clock marking the moment everything changed. His mom stood, smoothing her skirt. "Well, I never. Here we thought we were family, but clearly we were mistaken." "That's not what I'm saying, and you know it." "I'm just asking for some respect, some space," I tried to explain, but the look on her face told me she wasn't buying it. Jack's dad chimed in, his voice cold. "Seems like someone's true colors are showing. We just wanted to be close to our son, but apparently that's too much for you." I looked at Jack, searching for some sign of support, but he was torn, caught between us and them. "Maybe it's best if we leave," his mom said, her voice laced with hurt I wasn't sure was entirely genuine. "Maybe that is best," I agreed, more to myself than anyone else. They left, and with them, the false pretense of one big happy family. Jack and I stood in the silent aftermath, the rift between us wider than ever. The breaking point hit like a wrecking ball. Jack had always been a bit of a mama's boy, but I never figured it would get this bad. His folks, they had their hooks in deep, and Jack danced to every tune they played. It wouldn't have been so bad if it stopped there, but no. Jack started treating me like I was part of the staff in my own house. "Hey, can you whip up something nice for dinner?" "I'm starving," Jack would say, dropping his bag by the door like he owned the place. "Jack, I've been on my feet all day, teaching and grading. How about you cook tonight?" I'd reply, trying not to let my irritation bubble over. But instead of understanding, he'd huff, puff, and make it seem like I was the one being unreasonable. And let's not even start on the Fridays he'd roll in past midnight, reeking of booze, with that "what's the big deal" look plastered on his face. One evening, I'd had enough. "We need to talk, Jack. This isn't working," I said. He just stood there, swaying slightly, with that clueless look of his. "What's not working? Us, Jack. Us. Your parents treat this place like a free hotel. You treat me like I'm here to serve, and I'm tired all the time, tired." I could have said a lot of things then, could have apologized, could have promised to change. But no, he got all defensive, as if I was attacking him out of the blue. "That's not fair, Kim. You knew what my family was like," he shot back. "Yeah, and I thought I was marrying you, not signing up to be the family doormat," I snapped. That was the moment when the last thread snapped. We looked at each other, really looked, and saw the chasm between us, too wide to bridge, too deep to fill. I think we should get a divorce," I said, the words tasting bitter. Jack's reaction was a mixture of shock and relief. It was clear this had been a long time coming for both of us. But when he told his folks, the glee in their voices was something else. "We always knew she wasn't right for you, son. Good riddance, and thank heavens for that prenup. His mom had chirped over speakerphone, her voice a little too loud, a little too cheerful. Jack packed his bags that night, his movements mechanical. There was no dramatic goodbye, no tearful plea for reconsideration. Just the soft zip of a suitcase and the click of a door. Life's funny, you know. Just when you think you've hit rock bottom, fate throws you a curveball. For me, that curveball was a lottery ticket, a last-minute buy on a whim, because hey, why not? My life was already a mess. Might as well throw a couple of bucks at a dream. The morning I found out I won, it was like any other, except my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. I thought it was a mistake, a practical joke maybe. But no, there it was. My ticket, my numbers staring back at me from the screen, winners through and through. So there I was, staring at the lottery ticket in my hand, the kind of stunned where you can't decide if you want to laugh or cry. $3 million. It felt like a joke, considering the mess my life was at that moment. Divorce papers not yet signed, and my soon-to-be ex and his folks were nothing but a headache I couldn't shake. The universe must have a sense of humor, because the next thing I know, Jack's car pulls up, him and his folks all smiles and fake warmth. They come barging into my place like it's some family reunion. "Kim, darling, we heard the news." What a blessing, his mom starts, laying it on thick. "Let's put all this unpleasantness behind us, H. We're family." Jack chimes in, all hopeful. "Yeah, babe, think about it. We can start fresh, really make a go of it this time." I couldn't help it. I laughed, not the happy kind, but the kind that's sharp around the edges. Start fresh with what? Your folks running the show? No thanks, I'm good. Then Jack, oh Jack, he gets this look like he's been wronged, and says, "Come on, Kim, that's cold. You know I deserve half of that money. It's only fair." Fair? Let's talk about fair, Jack. You and your parents treating me in my place like some kind of free-for-all, and now you want half of my win. Not happening. His face went all kinds of red, anger, embarrassment, take your pick. His parents, too, looked like they'd swallowed lemons, all puckered and sour. According to our prenup, that money is mine. All mine. You got that? I said, holding his gaze, feeling a kind of power I hadn't felt in a long time. He sputtered, looking to his folks for backup, but I wasn't done. "And just so we're clear, this ticket," I waved it in the air before sliding it into my safe, "is staying right here under reliable protection." Their eyes, oh man, their eyes were like cartoon characters, almost popping out of their heads. It would have been funny if it wasn't so pathetic. Jack tried to argue more, but I cut him off. "No, Jack, it's over. This ticket is my ticket out of this mess, our mess, and you're not getting a dime." They left after that. Not much else they could say. The door clicking shut behind them sounded like the end of an era. My era of playing the good wife, the understanding partner. Then I rang up my sister, spilling the beans about my sudden windfall. We spent hours on the phone, dreaming big, trips abroad, fancy cars, you name it. The kind of chat that leaves your cheeks aching from smiling too much. And guess what? I added as our call was winding down. Jack already got his eyes on the prize, acting like we're suddenly best buddies again. My sister cackled on the other end. "You'd better hide that ticket somewhere Fort Knox couldn't crack, especially from those vultures." I laughed. "Oh please, I've got it, all under control. It's tucked away nice and safe." Fast forward a week, and I'm jetting off to a teaching conference, my mind a whirlwind of lectures and potential networking. Not once did I suspect what was brewing back home. Coming back to an empty space where my granddad's hefty safe used to sit, you'd think I'd freak out. But no, I just burst out laughing, knowing Jack and his folks. I had a hunch about who the culprits were. Sure enough, as the sun dipped and the evening rolled in, Jack's frantic voice came blaring through my phone. "Kim, you need to fix this now." He was practically shrieking. "Fix what, Jack?" "The fact that you and your parents are a bunch of Keystone cops." I couldn't help the snark. "It's not funny. We're at the police station. They think we tried to steal the lottery ticket." His voice was a mix of panic and disbelief. "The ticket? Oh, that precious piece of paper. Except the real kicker. The one in the safe was a decoy, a copy I'd made just for kicks. The real deal was with me, secure in my purse." The image of them huddled around my granddad's old safe, visions of dollar signs in their eyes only to find a worthless piece of paper, was too good. I held with laughter, the sound echoing off my empty walls. You mean to tell me you stole my safe for a fake ticket?" I managed between fits of laughter. There was silence, then a muffled curse. "You can't do this to us, Kim. It's not right." "Right, Jack. The moment you decided to break into my house and steal my stuff, you threw right out the window. Enjoy explaining that to the cops." The call ended with a click, and I spent the rest of the evening laughing, the sound bitter but liberating. Imagining their faces, the moment they realized they'd been played, was a balm to the months of turmoil they'd put me through. The next day, I headed to the police station to give my statement. The look on Jack and his folks' faces when I walked in was priceless. They looked like they'd seen a ghost, a mix of guilt and sheer panic. "Kim, thank God you're here. Tell them this is all a misunderstanding." Jack blurted out, his eyes darting around, looking for an ally in me. I just stared at him, letting the silence hang heavy for a moment. A misunderstanding? Is that what we're calling breaking and entering these days? His parents started in on their spiel, tripping over their words, trying to paint themselves as victims of circumstance. It would have been comical if it weren't so pathetic. "Listen, I only came here to make things right," I said, cutting through their babble. Jack perked up, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "So you'll help us?" I nodded, reaching into my bag. "Yes, by giving this to the officers." I pulled out the real lottery ticket, the legitimate claim to my winnings, and handed it over to the police officer standing by. Jack and his parents gasped, their faces going from hopeful to horrified in a split second. "That's the real ticket. The one you all were so desperate to steal was a fake, a decoy," I stated, my voice steady and clear. The officer took the ticket, looking between it and me. "This will certainly help clear things up," he said, noting down something in his notebook. "But why? Why would you trick us like that?" Jack's mom wailed, looking every bit the part of the wronged party. "Why? Maybe because breaking into someone's house and stealing is wrong." "You brought this on yourselves," I retorted, my patience wearing thin. Jack stood there, mouth agape as the realization sank in. "So what now? Are we going to jail?" "That's not for me to decide," I said, turning to leave. "But maybe next time you'll think twice before betraying someone who trusted you." After the whole debacle with the fake lottery ticket and the stolen safe, things moved quickly. The cops had enough to open a criminal case against Jack and his folks for breaking and entering, not to mention attempted theft. It was a mess, but a part of me felt vindicated seeing them finally face some consequences for their actions. The divorce papers came through not long after. Signing them felt like lifting a massive weight off my shoulders. It was official. I was free from Jack and all the drama that came with him. And the best part, I got my granddad's safe back. It was a little worse for wear after its adventure, but having it back in my house felt like getting a piece of my soul returned. I had the winning ticket cashed, the money securely tucked away, and a whole lot of options in front of me. But first, I needed to celebrate this fresh start This new beginning I fought hard for. I called up my sister, the first person who rode this crazy train with me from the get-go. "Hey sis, how about a celebratory dinner on me?" I offered, feeling lighter than I had in months. "You kidding? I wouldn't miss it for the world." "You deserve this, Kim," she replied, her voice bubbling with excitement. That evening, sitting in a cozy corner of our favorite restaurant, we toasted to new beginnings and the future. "So what's the first thing you're going to do with your winnings?" my sister asked, sipping on her wine. I thought about it for a moment. First, a vacation somewhere far, with lots of sun and no memories of the past few months. Then I don't know, maybe start a charity or invest in something meaningful. Something that makes a difference, you know. She nodded, her eyes sparkling. "That sounds just like you, Kim. Always thinking of others." After dinner, walking back to my car, my sister looped her arm through mine. "You know, I'm really proud of you, Kim. You handled everything with such grace." I smiled, a genuine smile that reached deep into my soul. "Thanks, sis. Couldn't have done it without you." As I drove home, the streets bathed in the soft glow of the streetlights, I felt a sense of peace. The kind of peace that comes from closing a long, turbulent chapter of your life and stepping into a blank page, ready to start anew. I had plans to make, dreams to chase, and for the first time in a long time, I was excited about what the future held. Sure, the road ahead might have its share of bumps and turns, but I was ready to face them head on, with my head held high and my heart open to whatever comes next.